to work on that. Yeah, I respect that, man. I respect that a lot. Oh, Callum, you're here. What up, buddy? Welcome.
Bonsoir, Elliot. How's it going?
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
It's from Mr. Robot, which I've been binging. Doesn't matter.
Ah, okay. Guys, we don't have Callum on video today, but we do have him in the VC. Callum, thank you so much for joining. How are you?
I am very good. A little bit sleepless, being as I've been working on this challenge in my, well, I would say free time, but my not working time, which is basically night. So, yeah,
wow.
I'm a bit tired, but other than that, I'm good, man. How about you?
I'm doing great. Honestly, really happy to be back with everybody in Earth 2. I've really missed everyone. Everybody knows I needed to take a bit of a break, and I was having a lot of fun streaming, you know, Pokemon, Elden Ring.
Good to change it up, isn't it?
Yeah, we even played some Lost Ark, and with this whole thing bubbling over, we got a lot of requests to cover it, so here we are. And as you know, as everybody knows, like, you and I have never had any beef or drama between each other. We talk, we've been cool, we agree to disagree, and
civil.
keep it.
Yeah,
right. So what we were going to talk about today, and we're happy to have you here, is the requirements of the challenge.
Yes.
So first and foremost, you take the challenge seriously. You're going for this.
Yeah, so despite him twisting my words and saying that I said I could do the entire demo in 30 minutes, which you have, previously pointed out yourself, I didn't say. I looked at it and I originally kind of just laughed it off, and I wasn't going to do it because it's not the challenge. The challenge wasn't based off of what I said. But I thought about it a bit more, and I was like, I already know that even if I meet the requirements, he's not going to pay me. Like, I know that. He'll find... I mean, look at it this way. He was trying to find a way to disqualify me for using teammates before I'd ever even opened an engine. Like, I'd literally spent the first day plotting out how I was going to achieve this in 7 days. So before opening anything and placing anything down, I was told that I'd use 10 developers, apparently. So
Sure.
But I looked at it as an overall thing. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm not one to turn down a challenge, so I will do it. I will give it my all.
Yeah. And I personally appreciate that from you. I think it's awesome that you're giving it a shot. You and I have spoken privately. I think this is a pretty tall order in 7 days, 30 minutes, whatever you want to call it. Where are you at mentally? How are you feeling about the challenge in general? Like, are you confident? Are you kind of Where's your headspace at right now?
I'm pretty confident with it, actually. I've made good headway on it already. Quite funny, I showed off a 18-hour preview of, where 18 hours had got me. The Earth 2 fans were very disappointed that it apparently looks like PS1 graphics, despite the fact it was 18 hours into the challenge. But no, I'm quite confident. I've got a lot more than I've shown. And in fact, I may, if you're willing to keep it secret, give you a sneak preview.
As in, we can't show it with this stream right here. It'd be totally secret. Absolutely,
I want to keep Shane quaking in his boots until the deadline.
All right, your secret's safe with me. I would say, though, honestly, if you hit the requirements, I imagine Shane would pay up. I really do. So I'll put that out there.
I would like to think that he's a man of his word, but at least from what I've seen, I very much doubt that he would pay up. That's just my opinion, though.
So where I based that on, there was a very specific situation with a particular individual who was trying to withdraw $116,000 from Earth 2 all at once. And while he wasn't able to do that, they worked out something like $5,000 payments a week until the amount was paid down due to like bank transfer limitations and stuff like that. So they did work that out. The guy got every penny, and realistically, if Shane just wanted to get rid of the guy, he could have said, "Oh, well, we're just going to ban you because you've been a nuisance." Same with me, right? Could have banned me for just being a nuisance. We're even going to ban you from the platform because you put When Phase 2 in your username and got 100 other people to do it, and that whole thing. And not only did that not happen, I've even barely been reprimanded in their socials, and they paid me all of my withdrawals as well. We have someone in the chat who says, the guy's giving away all these dumb egg dollars, which is true. Shane has paid out tens of thousands of dollars for people who are able to find these eggs in these egg hunts that I know you've hecked on and criticized a little bit, but he has paid those prizes out.
Yeah, I mean, if he lives up to his word, then I will, massive respect to him for that.
Yeah.
If he sets a challenge and he changes the goalpost multiple times before, that's kind of my lead into this. Yeah. But it's not about the money for me anymore. If he doesn't pay me, he doesn't pay me. But
sure. So a couple questions for you in the chat. First thing, I want to bundle a couple questions. I want to bundle a couple comments as a question and say, what do you say? What are your thoughts toward the people who say you're a scam tuber? All you do is have all this negative stuff to say about Earth 2, and now you're going to learn your lesson. Like that whole, I'm sure you're getting a wave of that, right? What is your response to that type of attention and interaction going on right now?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's understandable that if you only watch my Earth 2 videos that you would think that I am just overwhelmingly negative about anything. Obviously, the main purpose of my channel is calling out scams, so any videos to do with, well, scams are going to be negative. But if you haven't looked into my Dreamworld videos, I would say to do that, because this is something that started out incredibly sketchy. And when they eventually, got their shoes on and started hiring actual credible, developers, I did give them props for it, and I praised them for the work that they'd actually done towards what they'd promised.
Right.
So I like to think that I'm a very objective and unbiased person, if proven that what I think is wrong.
Proven! Where's Nizza? We have a thing around here where every now and then somebody will say something, and then like if we believe it's like a verifiable fact, we'll say proven, and then the chat will do it in all caps. It's just like a fun little meme we have. Yeah, there's a proven. So another thing here is, are you using other developers? Now, first of all, and I want to preface this by saying, we captured Shane's requirements, and one of them is any items you or anyone would claim that would allow you to do it, right? So I read in the challenge, you're more than happy to work with as many collaborators as you want, regardless. But one of the questions is, are you working with other developers on this challenge?
No, I've actually turned down, you can see in my Discord, I've turned down loads of people that have offered to help with this, because I said that although I didn't think that he was suggesting I couldn't use extra people, I wanted to do it that way, so there was no basis for him to try and disqualify me on. Ironically, an hour later, then making it sound like he's disqualified me on that basis.
Yeah. So any idea? Does anybody in the chat know, or Callum, do you have any idea where he would have gotten this idea that you have 10 developers apparently working on this?
No idea. My theory on this is, so I noticed some messages in the Earth 2 Discord, because I can still see in there. I've got another account in there. But
sure.
Before he put this tweet out, there were a lot of comments in there saying, you do realize you've just challenged a game developer to develop a game. And mysteriously after that, I think he just had a oh crap kind of moment, keep it premium. Had an oh crap moment and realized I might actually lose this. And I feel like he's just trying to set me up to fail before he's even seen anything from me.
Sure.
Because at this point, I hadn't put any previews out at all, none. Which is kind of weird. But I'm going to DM you this.
Okay. We'll take a look at that. We don't want to share it on stream, though?
Yeah, don't share it on stream yet.
Sure. Okay.
But this is a little bit more than I've publicly shown. So.
Okay. Cool.
Well, actually, it's a lot more than I've publicly shown.
Got it. And thank you. I appreciate you sharing it. A couple other questions for you. Callum, what are your thoughts on Big Fry's reaction?
From my opinion, it was a very unbiased first look at it. Okay. A lot of people seem to think he was either being biased towards Earth 2 or being biased towards me, or that he was, kind of like dragging me across the coals. Some people seem to think. I didn't see it that way.
Yeah, I didn't see it that way. I didn't see it that way either. The way I saw it, and I didn't like it, I didn't appreciate the video. I mean, I get it, right? Like any initial reaction, it's hype. You're reacting, right? You're creating a reaction for your chat and your community and all that, so I get it.
I mean, it was a spicy video, so I mean, I can't blame him for his reaction to it. It was a spicy video.
What I did feel like is he was egging it on from both sides, and I typically don't. I'm not really too fond of that. I like Big Fry. I've been subbed to his channel since like this whole thing started, when the whole YouTube crew showed up. So I appreciate a fair amount of his content. But it reminded me of a situation where like two people are arguing and a third person who could come in and be like, guys, why don't we settle down? Instead, he goes, are you going to let him talk to you like that? And I feel like he's doing that in both directions. So that's my perspective on it.
I completely understand that. And I do agree with you that in most situations that I would think that that's wrong. But I think it's more the fact that Big Fry, while he doesn't know me personally very well, he knows that I'm going to accept the challenge.
Yeah.
Like, at that moment in time, he didn't know that I'd accepted it.
Yeah.
But I think this was just a big... like, he saw that, writing was on the wall. He knew what was coming there. A quick question I've just seen in your chat. On his Twitter, there's messages...
Hold on, I'm actually... I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm actually going through them, and I'm a little backed up on them. The next one I have for you... I'm going to get down to the Twitter question. But the next one I had for you was, what would you do if Shane offered you a job? Say this comes out so great, he offers you a job.
I'm a man of my morals. I wouldn't accept it.
On moral compass, you wouldn't. Okay. Do you work for Next Earth? Because there's another question is, can Callum work for Next Earth and Earth 2 at the same time?
Oh, dear. This one actually is something I hadn't heard about until recently. Because I don't get much time to watch Kira's videos unless it's, if something pops up and it's a topic I like, I'll watch it. But I hadn't actually heard much about this. I didn't realize how much of a serious thing this was, that people genuinely think that Next Earth is paying us. And it's quite funny, actually, because I have had them offer me £5,000 for a video ad to sponsor their game. Multiple times. That was going to be with many, many other metaverses, and I've turned them all down.
That was going to be my next question. Have you been paid by any individual, project, entity, all-encompassing term? Have you been paid to make content about any project ever?
About any project? No, never. I have never accepted money, and unless I've said at the start of the video that someone has sponsored me to make this video about them.
Sure.
Which has been... Actually, it hasn't been any games yet. I've got a planned sponsor for a different game, but that's going to be very upfront that that's sponsored. But
gotcha.
No, so far it's just been VPN sponsors, which are irrelevant to the topics at hand, and then I think that's it, actually.
Okay. Question from Outsanity. I'm wondering what the end game is for Callum's project. What does he think the finished product will look like in order to win the bet? I'm not really trying to be factitious I'm not trying to be facetious or insincere. I really don't know what to expect. So what do you think the finished product looks like in order for you to win this bet?
So, looks wise, which was not part of the the criteria, because I can't be a developer and an artist all within the same time period, but I've put together something that looks decent, but I'm not trying to mimic the looks of Earth 2. I'm trying to mimic the tech that they asked. Well, I say trying. I have on multiple of the points already. I won't say which ones yet. But as I'm going through the list of things, we're just about over halfway there on his points.
Wow.
So yeah, and some of the bullet points here that he was touting as being the hardest ones to achieve simply weren't. I mean, I'll tell you this, right? Where's this point about? Okay, number 4. The compressed height map must be streamed from disk, uncompressed, in the background on the CPU with multi-threading. The rest must be done in shader on the GPU. So, that's pretty standard. You store your images on disk. Sure. If you compress them, you're compressing the file on disk. And then you're streaming it into the shader for the end result. So... that one's a really strange one, because a lot of people thought that was going to be the sticking point here. It's just how you do it. That's
not the one I think it'll be. And I do want to get into the requirements. I think that'll be the most challenging. But we are at Paul Archer's question there. On his Twitter, there's messages that they are 30-year developers who are supporting him. It certainly sounded like he was getting help. And then there's another comment in the chat that you had said, so I guess we're not to pry, but I guess we're revisiting, are you working with other collaborators, even for consulting or contributing to the project in any way? Again, I don't think that's against the rules personally, but...
No, I'm completely working solo on this. So, to answer the first question about the people on Twitter saying they're supporting me, I don't know if many people know this, but I actually run a game studio. So the developers that are supporting me, as in like morally supporting me or just being there for me or rooting for me, are my team of developers that are currently working on my game. So yes, I do have a army of developers at my disposal. I don't have the 10 that Shane seems to think I have.
Sure.
But we've actually got an investment meeting on the 30th, so they are working full steam ahead on getting the demo ready for that.
Nice.
I'm not pulling them away from, potential $1 million investments, or £1 million investments, should I say, to work on a little bit of a playground fight challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, pulling me away from it to do that already is probably not a good idea, but despite that, I was like, you know what? I have to take him up on this challenge.
Gotcha. I got a comment from Arc420O I think is important to read, and you know this, I feel the same way as well, but just to communicate it from the chat. Callum, thanks for keeping your cool during this and accepting the challenge. Also, coming on this stream speaks volumes. Your efforts are appreciated. Wishing you the best of luck. And I would echo that, Callum. I appreciate you, Sid Alpha, Big Fry, Kira. Of all those folks I've named, I've had nothing but relatively positive interactions with you guys, even if we're somewhat abrasive with one another on occasion over the matter of opinion. I think we've always been able to have civil discussion, and obviously, of course, we appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the comment, by the way. This is something that people seem to misunderstand. There's no animosity on my end between me and Shane, or between me and Earth 2's, fans, players, if you want to say that, or fans. It's more that I've got a gripe with the project and the way it's heading. I don't have a personal gripe with Shane as a person.
Sure.
And a lot of people seem to misunderstand that and think that I'm just out to get Shane. I think the main takeaway here is, the thing that confuses me about the recent events is, I said to him that I didn't believe that he was using tech that he claimed he'd pioneered, right? This revolutionary clip mapping he claimed. Now, normally, any sane kind of judge of this situation would then say that the responsibility falls on him to prove me wrong, right? Like, well, if I say that what he's showing me doesn't exist, and he can easily just show that it exists, not the code, I don't expect that, but if he can show proof that it exists, through either console like stats, wireframe, or something, that's it. That's the end of it. And he's gained so much credibility with you guys. All of us can then stop commenting on it because he's proven himself.
Sure. So you want to see the tech.
Weird.
Big Fry made a similar comment yesterday. Now, I do want to respond to one thing. I don't know that maybe there was just like misunderstanding each other, but I don't know that Shane ever claimed to have pioneered it. I think maybe it was more the idea that they believe they're leveraging it in a way that people will find very impressive.
Right.
I'm not sure. A couple other things. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to quickly say, so if that's the case, then what he's saying and what he's doing are two very different things. He's saying that it's a proprietary tech, but there's kind of this shadow of disbelief here, because let's look at it like this. The problems that Shane is trying to solve is essentially the holy grail of game development.
Agreed. I do agree.
Studios have been looking for this for decades, quite literally. So for somebody with no background in game development to come forward and say, we have done it, but we won't prove it. Yeah. I mean, you can see my point of view here.
I've always understood where you guys were coming from based on that. Like, based on that alone. The fact that when you guys see, even, let's look at the first Earth 2 terrain video, right? Yeah. When you look at the first Earth 2 terrain video, if you take Shane at his word and you say, okay, this is in-engine footage, this isn't like a rendered video that was created. This is in-engine footage.
Okay, that is premium brand.
Thank you so much, Snoke, for the 13 months. I appreciate you. So you take him at his word and you say, okay, this is in-game footage, all that. Zooming in at a level we haven't seen, moving the camera 50,000 or 50,000 kilometers per hour, all those things. I do think it is amazing and impressive and something I haven't seen in any other game. But
I agree.
Where I also think you guys have come from, and maybe you've said this, or maybe it was Big Fry or Kira or somebody else, is that you guys have seen other projects try to pass like highly rendered and post-production edited videos as in-game content, and you guys look at maybe Earth 2 is doing the same thing. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair to say. So this is actually what I was going to lead into next. So, and I think a lot of people don't understand this. If what Shane is saying is true, and he can prove that that it's factually true and not a rendered, like pre-rendered thing, I will absolutely applaud and commend him for it. Like, that's huge if it exists. But you can't claim a kind of industry-changing tech and then have kind of just no basis to prove it on. Because if you have the tech, you can prove it, right?
Sure. No, I get it. I think where the divide is there are a lot of people in the Earth 2 community who look at it and say, oh, well, if they say they've done it, they'll prove it when they're ready to prove it. And you guys are coming from a background where you say, we've seen 1 project, 5 project, 10 project, however many projects do exactly this, where they say they've got it.
Wow, so
they never prove
brand.
it. They don't actually have it. So this is what I mean when I say I totally understand where both sides are coming from. I understand having faith in a project you believe in so much. Hey, I went all in on the concept. I put it was very public. My wife and I were not getting along for a long time.
Yeah,
because
you've told me it didn't go too well, did it?
I put everything and the kitchen sink into Earth 2. And it did go well. We got our money back. I've still got 60,000 tiles. I've got probably one of the highest essence balances in the game. So if essence is ever a thing, I'm going to be sitting pretty.
I'm not going to lie, Nameless. If I was your wife, I'd have divorced you on the spot.
Well, sorry, Callum. That's what makes you not my wife. I do have another question from Skip Yellow. Do you actually think, I'm going to rephrase and say, do you still think, or would you still argue that Earth 2 itself is an actual scam, or just not possible in the way they want to convey it will be? So do you think the whole company's a scam, or do you think their goal is the scam? What do you think?
Yeah, so I should probably explain this in a bit more depth, because I know there's a lot of people that don't see the word scam the same way that, a lot of us do. So from my perspective, a scam doesn't have to be intentional, or at least, initially intentional. I think if you have if you've claimed to make something that you have no proving ground that you can actually do that, no history to back you up on that, and no knowledge yourself of if you can even do that, I would still consider that a scam. Now, is it a scam in the sense that Shane has gone out of his way and he's sat down one day and thought, I'm going to take everyone's money and just deliver the bare minimum to string them along? No, I don't think he's done that.
Gotcha.
I personally think Shane has gone into this with wild ambitions of something that he didn't have any, conceptualization of, had absolutely no grounds to prove to himself that he could do this. And yeah, it's going to end up that this is the way to look at it. Incompetence to that level and a scam end the same way. The people don't get what they were promised because it was never delivered. So
right.
That's the way I kind of see it.
That's what you guys have always been concerned about, is advertising a thing that's not delivered. I remember one of the things Big Fry talked about very early on, where it was in his deep dive video, I think. And it's where I really started to build. Initially, it was a lot of friction there because his first video. And then where I said, okay, you know what? I really do respect that, is he had said he sees it so often where people say they have a thing, but they actually have nothing. So I want to go through these challenge requirements, and I want to ask you maybe multiple choices. So 4 choices. I think this is simple. And the four choices I want to offer you are: we've done it, we think we can do it, we don't think we can do it, or not comfortable answering that, right?
Okay.
Okay, so number 1, create a world or terrain That must be 774,000 meters by 774,000 meters.
Well, if you click the GIF I sent you, that ticks off done it.
Well, I haven't because it'll pop up straight on our stream here. So yeah, I'm not doing anything.
Let me make it playable in editor. Not in editor. God, I'm stuck in development right now.
Well, I can always do this. Here.
There you go. If I dot GIF it at the end, it should render as an actual in. There you go.
Oh, Callum. All right.
Okay, that is.
So does that not kind of tick that one off? Would you say?
Possibly. I don't.
And also, that's only as long as the GIF could go. I actually stupidly kept zooming out for another 10 seconds after.
Yeah. Okay, so you believe you've got number one.
Number one is done and in the bag.
So I want to catch up to a few things in the chat here. So anything that is new and being given a red hot go is a scam. Did they ever promise exactly, or has it always been a hopeful let's see? Well, that's the point of contention, I think, Skip Yellow. So I think we talked about that a bit. JMT Reagan, welcome. Thing is, if Callum is saying what they are trying to do doesn't exist, how on earth can he replicate it? Oh, what do you think about that, Callum? That might be the best question yet. Yeah. This is like a Schrodinger's cat kind of question.
It is, yeah. So I'm saying that what they're trying to do on the grand scale is not possible currently. And potentially by the looks of it and the advancements in technology, not in the near future. So that I stand by. However, I mean, we don't even get into the issues of networking, replication, any of that. That is an entire another ball game in itself.
Yeah.
But what they've shown is possible if rendered. Now, this is where a lot of people kind of don't understand this. So what they showed was a very authored view of what they want you to see. You always zoom into the same biome. Always. You zoom in and out on the same places. That. Yeah. Now, that's very easy to stage on the smaller scale. And you can even go as far. Let's say their PC can't keep up with what needs to be rendered. They put it at half speed for rendering. They take a 20-minute video and then condense it down to a 10-minute video. And it looks...
Wow.
And this is an industry trick that everybody uses.
Wow. Okay. It's fair. It's a possibility, and it's a thing that other studios do. So I get where you're coming from. So, guys, I want to capture more of these questions. I want to get back to them, but I want to go through these requirements with Callum here as well. There are great questions in the chat. Guys, feel free to ask them again when we get through these and then we come back. So, again, 4 answers.
And I'll stick around for it.
We've done it. We're going to do it. We can't do it. So not happy to answer.
Mode
to code. We're not doing that. Hold on.
Bitties.
I can't interrupt
you are
it.
Full of it. And nobody likes your videos.
Mode to code.
We're
keeping it premium brand. We're being cool, and we're going to respect our guest because Callum has shown us nothing but respect. At least this stream and this community. Same can be said of Sid Alpha, Big Fry, all of that. What we cannot do, Mode to Code, is be at each other's throats when we create the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you guys being here, but let's all try to have a good time and respect one another. Sorry, Callum. Number 2.
Yeah, it's all good.
The terrain must be rendered using geometry clip maps.
Done. It was required for number 1.
Done. Okay. And it was required for number 1. Okay, number 3. Utilize a base height map which must have a 32-meter sample distance. Maps spanning over the whole terrain, including global color maps, global normal map, and a curvature map must not be used.
Done.
Done. Number 4. The compressed height map must be streamed from disk, uncompressed, in the background on the CPU with multi-threading. The must be done in shader on the GPU, including curvature, normal, colors must be derived from the height map data alone, quote, and the other tech we've built in, Shane Isaac. Right?
Done.
Done. And you did it without Shane's proprietary tech.
Yeah, because it's not.
There you go.
I literally use Mapbox.
Okay. Number 5, the world or terrain must have the same level of detail achievable in any point in the world.
So I'll answer the next 3 all in one. Currently in progress.
Okay. Number 6, this, I'm going to say straight up, this is the one I think you're going to struggle with the most. The camera must navigate the terrain at a speed over 50,000 kilometers per hour without popping artifacts or clip map artifacts.
So this one's not actually a straightforward answer, as many people have pointed out. So distance in Game Engine is abstract. There is literally no such thing. So you can have Unreal World units that you know, say 100 meters by 100 meters per world unit. Mm-hmm. But that's just a figure that we've given to it to kind of help us see scale in things that we add, right?
Okay.
So that's actually one of the points that isn't difficult. It's just very vague because you can't measure kilometers per hour in a game engine with an abstract distance. If you get what I'm saying here.
I understand you. I don't know that you can or can't, like, to debate you on that, but I'll take you at your word. Same way I have to take Shane on his word when he says he can do it at 50,000 kilometers per hour. So then, to rephrase the question, do you think you will be capable, or you know, by the end of this week, you'll have the camera move really, 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 really fast?
Yeah, so in the GIF I sent you, it actually already does. Now, what I'm going to use as a measurement for this, I think is possibly the fairest measurement, which is I take the terrain height map data, work out the distance of it per rendered tile, and try and use that as a measurement of kilometers, right? I think that's the fairest way to go about that, because there's no other real reference for distance in a game engine.
And guys, for everyone saying if it's a real world replica or it's 1-to-1, or Niz is saying yes, you can. I don't know the answer to that question, guys, but keep in mind, the challenge is not for Callum to create a 1-to-1 replica of Earth. It's to create a world or terrain 774,000. Let's just say 774 kilometers by 774 kilometers. So
yeah, what I'm probably going to have to do is add a UI to this and do some maths trickery to convert world units to their perceived distance in height map data, which again, he can call me out on that and say, oh, but that's just a UI you've put on there. But there's really no other way to portray that to the camera. So he can pretty much indefinitely call me out on that one. But we will achieve that by the end of it. I'll have 50,000 kilometers in height map data.
You'd need to travel like 5,000 kilometers. You'd need to travel 5,000 kilometers in the span of a minute. And I would suppose if you could do that, then that's mission accomplished, right?
Well, you've saved me the maths. There we go.
Well, I did the math wrong. This is why we have a no math on stream rule. Let's hold on.
Isn't great.
Guys, forget it. I can't math. We're going to do it right now. 50,000 divided by 60. Wow, it's a lot less than that, guys. I'm so sorry. This is why we don't math on stream, okay? 833 kilometers in a minute. So you've got to be able to travel 833 kilometers in a minute. And if you can do that...
probably already doing that now, then.
Okay. So...
judging by how many tiles are loaded in, on screen at any given time, yes, I think it's already doing that then.
For number 7, the biomes and water level must be changeable in real time.
So that's actually something I was setting up right before jumping on call with you. Absolutely achievable. Possibly the easiest to make work. I just also, as an added extra, want to make it look good.
Okay.
Because it's achievable to do, but I also kind of want to make it look good.
Okay. DVD. Good.
I'll add that, don't worry.
Callum, Shane forgot a requirement must include an egg hunt. That would I gotta be honest, that would be hilarious if you still have an egg hunt in there.
You know what? For you guys, I will do it. But I've actually got a few bonus criteria that I won't tell you because it's going to be a surprise that I want to throw in there.
Yeah. So here's...
either way, whether you guys agree with the video or not that I put out, you'll get a good laugh out of it. I hope.
So here's the thing. Did anybody notice what requirements Shane did not include, guys? Because if Callum, if I were you, I would have told Shane, buzz off, I don't work for you, and I would have, taken that route. But you're going to take on the challenge, so I respect you even for trying. Can't wait to see what you put together. And I couldn't help but notice that Shane missed some requirements. And I know that because I find missed requirements for a living, and I know what it's like to have a developer tell me they didn't build something because it wasn't in the requirements, and it hurt my feelings.
Okay. Well, I've probably missed these then because I went off his list of requirements.
The
list I'm looking at here is the one that I was going off of.
There are no requirements regarding the number, amount, density, graphical quality of 3D assets. So when we watched the video Nathaniel made, there were trees, there were flowers, there were logs, there were rocks, there were bird sounds that were added later, or whatever the case may be. You guys know what I mean. Those are all 3D assets. There are no requirements here regarding 3D assets. Rogue is on to my next one. Yes, Rogue, you're absolutely right. There is no requirement here around resolution. I can assure you guys, from what I've seen, Callum is not trying to produce this in, say, Minecraft. There's nothing that says you can't. Shane opened himself up to be trolled very, very hard here. And honestly, Callum, I got to respect that you're going for what you believe the spirit of the challenge is, which is something that could be streamed side by side next to Earth 2 and say, can you tell who made it?
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny that you say that because one of my actual studio developers messaged me and he says, if you actually wanted to complete this, speed run it, he was like, this is technically what you could do, based off exactly what you've just said, resolution, density, all of that sort of stuff. He says, there's no requirements for, any assets to be placed.
Right.
And although that's true, I still wanted to try and get some of that in, even though he hasn't asked for it, because although he can't deny, his criteria, I've already seen it in the Earth 2 Discord, people saying that, oh, but it hasn't got this, it hasn't got that. And it's just like, this was a tech demo requirement, not a art demo. Because at the end of the day, art isn't hard. Well, it's hard to do, it's not hard to implement, though.
So as the bonus, and it sounds like you might already be going for this bonus, the world or terrain must be interactive on current generation GPUs and have headroom for thousands of additional 3D objects to be rendered. Do you think you're going to include thousands of objects in this 774 kilometer by 774 kilometer world?
Yeah, so there is already thousands of additional objects, but I kind of set myself a stretch goal if I have the time. So I've recently started working with Unreal Engine 5. Very new to that version of the engine, so I couldn't, speed run through this the way I wanted. So I've done it in UE4 to further try and prove a point. However, if I have time, I will port it over to UE5 and use Nanite for unlimited, quite literally unlimited meshes.
I did think about that. When the Unreal Engine 5 video first came out, I was kind of in a mental place where I was like, guys, isn't it possible that what Nathaniel just produced, Unreal just released for everyone? Not that I think it's a bad thing, and I don't think it hurts Earth 2 in any way. Don't get me wrong on that. But for me, Callum, what it did is it made me further confident that what Earth 2 is doing is absolutely achievable from a Phase 3 perspective. As everybody knows, my biggest criticism about Earth 2 was whether or not they could make it to Phase 3 and still have the active community they once had. And we're finding out right now in real time. Yeah,
so in regards to that, first of all, I think Earth 2 are trying to, they're having a race to hammer a nail into a wall, and they're using their fist instead of a hammer that's right next to them. So Unreal Engine 5 solves a vast majority of the problems that they either are going to face or are currently facing. There's no denying that. Between World Composer, which is it called? I think it's called World Composer in Unreal Engine.
Terrain Composer, Mesh Combine. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm not on about the Nathaniel plugins. I'm on about the base terrain editor in UE5.
Oh,
I do
I
think
don't
it's called
know.
World Composer. I always get these mixed up because of how similar they are.
Okay.
But it's World Composer, and it literally allows for infinite landscapes generated on the fly. Now,
Wow.
the caveat to that as well is you also have Nanite, which... So this is something that they can't take advantage of. Nanite is... what's the actual word for it? It's basically... It's not procedural meshes. I'm trying to think of the word, but essentially any faces of the mesh that aren't shown are just straight up not rendered into memory. Now, this is something that others have tried to recreate in Unity, but the difference there is it's still rendered or loaded into memory. It's just not loaded into graphics. So it's a bit of an odd one that they've chosen to go this route, because they're not really solving the problem.
So
they're actually making it harder for themselves.
I have it up here, and this probably elaborates on what you're saying. So, guys, I'll read the parts that are off camera, or you know what? Here, I'll just move this like here, like this. So the question, how does Nanite work? Nanite integrates as seamlessly as possible into existing engine workflows while using a novel approach to storing and rendering mesh data. During import, meshes are analyzed and broken down into hierarchical clusters or triangle groups. During rendering, clusters are swapped on the fly. This is kind of exactly what you just said. On the fly at varying levels of detail based on the camera view, and connect perfectly without cracks to neighboring clusters within the same object. And this is part of that popping that we see.
Yeah. So to give you a really good example that anyone who's touched a game engine will know, if you take a massive cliff face and you push it into, like, you know, the landscape, you've got all that geometry behind the landscape that you never see. You just see the front of the cliff face, right?
Yeah.
However, your computer still renders, like, non-visually anyway. It sees it, it calculates it, it's there. However, in Nanite, it doesn't. Anything that is not visible to the camera is straight up not used in memory or GPU buffer.
Gotcha. So this is where it comes back to the whole, well, if what they're doing is so simple, then why can't they do it? And really, you have continued to be of the opinion that really the issue is going to come with scalability.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So if, let's say you were running it on a private server with 5,000 users, is there anything about what Earth 2 is trying to do that you don't think is possible? If the scale were not a question?
If the scale were not a question and it was 5,000, you'd probably still have to use some sort of layering architecture to have people in separate instances. Depending on a lot of factors, depending on the variables that are updated on the fly for movement, depending on the resolution of the characters. There's a lot of factors that play into this, as well as the amount of data that server would have to be sending out to each of these players. So we've done a lot with networking on our game, and it's a lot more of a beast than you could ever imagine. It really is. So. Yeah. World of War, a lot of people don't realize this as well. World of Warcraft, their servers have 40,000, and that seems to be everyone's proving ground for why it's possible, right? Okay. For other projects, at least, you know. The difference is they have servers within that big server. Those 40,000 people are not in the same instance. A lot of the instances are capped at 100 players, or maybe 200 in areas of great population, you know, where a lot of people would get together.
Yeah, layers.
Yeah, so you layer them, and it's called waterfalling. Basically, think of them as containers, servers stacked on top of each other, that can each contain 200 players. If a player drops out of the bottom container, they drop in from the next one. And it just waterfalls down, it trickles down. That's been trickery that's been around for years, which, I mean, Earth 2 could use, right?
Sure.
But it's still a hell of a lot of a challenge here, because you've now got to link up and waterfall, possibly, depending on the scale, possibly millions of waterfalled containers. And that alone is nigh on impossible to do right now.
Yeah. So I appreciate it. I want to go back and see if I can dig up some of those other questions. Folks, if you have additional questions for Callum, please let us know. Drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we may wrap it up here in a minute, bang out some more marble races, and either, call it a day, load up something. But I do want to give everybody a chance to ask Callum any additional questions. And then the other thing, Callum, I know you and I had spoken about this. For Shane to challenge you to this is, of course, Shane's way of saying that this is what Earth 2 has done. Some of which have never been shared, even with the Earth 2 community before. Specifically, the 32-meter sample distance maximum. I don't know if that's new information or not. Or specifically, the camera can navigate, 50,000 kilometers without popping artifacts or clip map artifacts, things of that nature. Is this going to happen throughout the entire world and all those other things? So I think Shane is also making some of these claims as well from the perspective of we haven't seen the code that proves it can be done, but we've seen the video. What are your thoughts on that?
So something I actually plan to do is if he doesn't plan to pay the bounty for this challenge, which again, I personally don't think he will anyway. I don't think he ever intended to. If he doesn't want to pay it, he absolutely has to prove that the challenge he set was already done by him, because that was the challenge, right? To do what they have done. And if he can't provide proof that he himself has done it, I would say it's not really a fair challenge.
Okay. Now, Paul Archer's making a comment saying, pick a slur and tell us which one is true. Earth 2 is insolvent. If everyone withdrew at the same time, they'd be bankrupt. Everyone's selling at 90% off. Asking for standard wire transfer details is dodgy. They have no experience in running scams, but are capable of running the biggest scam ever seen, but not developing something in their field of expertise. I actually want to say one thing first here, Paul Archer, and shout out to Callum. So Callum, we've given you a lot of feedback on your videos. Some of it you've applied, some of it, maybe a matter of opinion or it wasn't applied. But this is one of the things that you did correct. When you made the comment about land being 99% off, we had let you know that that was more or less a interface or a graphical, or not graphical, but it was an interface issue. That land was not sellable. That's why it was listed at 99% off. And you corrected that in one of your other videos.
Yes. So that's one of those things where people who are, banned from the Discord and basically kind of shunned out of the information aren't really privy to that information. Like, how is any average Joe going to know that unless somebody tells them? And you told me, which I appreciate.
So another way I would phrase it, though, because I don't want to write off Paul Archer's question. I think Paul Archer asks some great questions, is a great member of the community, adds a lot to dialogue. Do you think Earth 2 is insolvent?
In what sense?
Well, in any sense. Because I think to the question, so Paul Archer makes a comment, if everybody tried to withdraw at the same time, they wouldn't have the money. I think that's probably not true, because we have an idea on this. I've called it Doomsday, right? And I've described it as all the land is selling for 95, 98% off. Nobody wants to buy your heckin' tiles, and you can't withdraw because you can't sell your tiles and get your money to withdraw in the first place, right?
Gotcha.
That's what I've called Doomsday. It's like the worst thing that could ever happen in Earth 2 is nobody wants to buy your stupid land, and then you can't sell it. Obviously, where the best thing is, the price of the land continues to go up. And it has, by the way. The price of land in Earth 2 is still going up, because we measure it a little differently. We measure it by what we call the floor. So we don't look at it and say, what is the price of a tile in France, new land value versus what it's trading in the market? Because people are always going to buy the cheapest tiles. So there's a group of people, we're always looking at where are the cheapest tiles available in the entire game, and is that price on the market going up or down? And it's steadily been going up. I think guys, are we at like $1.50 for a single tile? Please let me know if I'm correct or incorrect on that. I think we're at $1.50 a couple months ago. It was 80 cents. And obviously it started at 10 cents even before Tier 2 land came out.
To answer that question, though, it really does depend on if they've put that money in a safe place that is untouched by any other of their ventures, any of their development costs, any of their, whatever they spend money on, I don't know, licenses for tech. If they have kept that aside in the case of that event, then I don't see it being an issue. However, as that money is to fund their development, apparently, I don't believe they have kept all that to one side. They may have kept a good chunk of it to one side to be, solvent, but if enough people pull out, I do think they could run into that issue. I really do. And I think that's something that anyone couldn't really argue with, because it's more of a if they did.
Well, yeah, that's, like I said, we've called it Doomsday. I don't think anyone could argue if that situation were present, would it be catastrophically bad for the company? I think we would all agree that it is. How likely do you think we are to face that situation? Because I would say most of the people in the chat think that that's just never going to happen. What do you think?
It's a speculative market, isn't it? It's
fair. I think that's fair.
It could literally go either way. There's the chance for it to happen. There's a chance for it to not happen. It's a toss of a coin for me. It does happen or it doesn't. So it's a 50-50 on my part. But it all depends how things go for Earth 2. I don't know. I mean, Shane probably is now starting to realize the ramifications of the challenge he put out. Let's say I meet all his criteria and he actually agrees to pay the money, right?
Yes, I did want to talk about this and I completely lost sight of it. Thank you for coming back here. This is one of the main questions I wanted to ask, which is kind of as you had just phrased it, which is, what do you think it means for Earth 2 if you knock this out of the park? Let's say no questions asked, boom, home run, you've done it. What does that mean for Earth 2 in your mind?
In my mind, I think it will at least open the eyes of quite a lot of people who have been kind of blinded by it, I want to say. Which, if enough people realize that this isn't anything new, that it's not proprietary tech, as he claimed, I think they're going to take a very different perspective on this. And that could lead to a lot of people pulling out of this, lead to a decline in sales because of that. If some of the big movers drop out. It's very hard to predict, but either way, I think if it goes as well as I'm planning for it to go, he has made himself look very stupid by, one, having that sort of a response, like a call out challenge to do what he did. And then having, I mean, what can he say when it's done? If I do complete it to his standards, which are very vague, as we found out.
It's vague, and it's vague, but with consideration for the spirit of the challenge being, whether you're going to include thousands of 3D objects, whether you're going to, 4K, 8K resolution. YouTube only allows you to upload up to 4K, but the videos are or were available in 4K to download.
Yeah.
Right? So you do that.
I'll upload it in 4K if that's something that people want. I don't normally, but I'm pretty sure I can manage that.
If you're going for the spirit of the challenge, I would recommend uploading it in 4K. Now, question to everybody in the chat. If Callum knocks this out of the park, uploads it in 4K, camera moving at 50,000, joules a minute, I don't know, like whatever we're measuring that speed by, just to sidestep that whole conversation of camera speed, is anyone in the chat going to start selling land and or lose confidence in Earth 2? Yes, no. Would it negatively impact your confidence in Earth 2 if Callum is able to do this in 7 days?
I actually agree with what Jad's saying there. I think if Callum does complete the challenge, it could still be a win for Earth 2, depending on how graciously Shane reacts to it. And I completely agree. Because if he reacts, like a baby throwing his toys out the pram, which, based off of him trying to disqualify me on, complete null points up until now, I see it ending quite badly for Earth 2, because it's just a bit of an odd one, isn't it? Like, you called someone out, you challenged them, they did it, and then you throw your toys out the pram.
I think Rogue has the most honest answer, which is maybe. We got a lot of no, definitely not. Guys, I think it's a fair question to ask. I appreciate everybody answering. I always like when we pose a question to the chat and we at least have enough answers to gauge the consensus of responses. So for the most part, everybody in the chat saying no, that wouldn't change my mind. DVD highlighted message, will not make me cash out, no, but I will sell tiles to circulate the cash I have in the game already. Yeah. Guys, honestly, I'm I'm zero risk in Earth 2, so I'm not selling anything else. We're just gonna ride this out and see what happens. Issa says Shane should quit Twitter if Callum completes the challenge. You know what, Issa? That does lend into something else.
Do that anyway.
That does lend into something else I wanted to ask Callum, and then also the chat as well. Is what do you guys think of Shane's approach here? Callum, what did it feel like for you to have the CEO of a company you've been kind of ripping on? Because this content creator space is, I think the level of viewership you're getting and the size of your audience is somewhat new to you in like the last year. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so actually it's really funny. Shane put that challenge video out an hour after my first upload reached a year. So that was my birthday present on YouTube. And honestly, it was kind of funny. I didn't really see it as anything negative. I just kind of laughed at it, and I was like, well, I guess I've got a few hours to decide if I'm going to do this or not.
So what were your thoughts on, like the person-to-person thing? Like, do you take it personally? Do you think Shane is coming? No. I mean, he name-dropped you and everything. Like, do you think he has something personal against you?
I think he has something personal against me because, the name-dropping, like you say. But I don't have anything personal against him. I just think the way he went about it was possibly the biggest PR blunder that I've ever seen from somebody of his wealth and status.
Shane has been accused of making a PR blunder here and there in the past, and even from a lot of folks in this chat right now. I think we've all been able to look at it and say, okay, Shane, that wasn't the best way to go about this, and I'm guilty of not going about it in the best way myself. So
we've all done it. You learn from it, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. So that was another thing is like, say you do this and there's popping artifacts all over the place, or your camera speed is only moving at 2 joules a minute, or whatever the case may be, or your terrain isn't large enough, or your you find you have to use a global. If you fail this in somehow, some way, to what extent would that change your perspective of Earth 2?
It kind of wouldn't really, because the way I see it is they claim they've got 60 plus developers. They've been working on this a year and a half, is it now? And
give or take, yeah. Nathaniel had been working on it since like 2018.
Yeah, and they also have, undeniably millions of dollars to achieve what they have got to so far. So if I even get remotely close and I'm disqualified on one thing or another, I'm happy with that.
You'll be good with it.
Gotcha. Like I said, I'm not in this for the money. I'd like if he kept to his word, but I'm not in it for the money, because from the start of this, I never thought he'd actually give me the money anyway.
Yeah, I think if you do it, he will. I really do.
Do you?
Yeah, because he's made this challenge before, and the guy just disappeared. We had someone who came into the Discord and said, I could do this in a day. This is poo-poo. It's not good. Heck Earth 2. And I was the first, I think it was me first, where I was like, we'd pay you if you could do it. Like, set a price and we'll do it. And then I think Shane had replied and was like, I'll drop 10,000 on it. So he's got this... Just like we give away plots of virtual land, Shane's got this I have $10,000 to spare itch. So I do think if you pull it off, he'd be happy to pay you.
Okay.
And then offer you a job.
Well, I won't be accepting that. I've got enough on my plate as it is. There's a question in your chat that's actually something that I don't think I've touched on in this. How does the challenge have to be submitted? Is it just a video, or do you have to send over a project file? So there has not actually been a kind of point on this, on how I have to submit this. However, I originally intended to, publicly send this out so everybody can mess about on it and whatever.
Yep, you did tell me that. You were going to drop the project files, which I think if you uploaded it in 4K to YouTube and it hit the requirements, that's beyond sufficient.
Yeah, and I did think about it from this point of view. I don't believe that he has the technology he's asking me to make, right? So... From
Whoa! My point of view, okay.
So you see where I'm going with this. So from my point of view, he's looking to pay me 10K to give him his missing puzzle piece.
Wow! Guys, in the chat, is it fair for Callum to have that perspective? I think that's fair, actually. Even though we're talking Unreal versus Unity, But I think that is fair.
Yeah, C++ and C# are pretty translatable, you know, from reading to writing. So you can quite easily copy the technique. It's not necessarily the lines of code that are important. It's the technique that led to the end result. So if he calls me out on that, I will simply say to him, I will give you the project files. If you I'll show you mine if you show me yours, you know?
You got to do the Dr. Evil. $1 million.
So
I think it's a good
from my point of view, it seems like he made the joke that I'd be the highest paid dev, right? And I mean, that's very, it's not very true. 10,000 Australian dollars is £5,000.
I would take that as 10,000 USD. Just to put that out there. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Earth 2 operates in USD, baby. We're not we don't heck around with AUD. No offense to the Australian dollar, but
if that's the case,
dollars
then,
for dollars, right?
If that's the case, then fair enough. I was just going by his currency.
That's like 12 pounds, right? 10,000 USD.
I can get a takeaway with that. But if that was the case, that I accepted the 10K and gave him my project files, or, you know, the other way around, I gave him the project files and accept the 10K. He's essentially just got everything. Let's say he doesn't have the tech, because currently he hasn't proved that he does, right? He then has all the tech that he's missing, essentially, for 10K. So, for me, it's kind of a dilemma of morals, because I don't want to give him that tech. I will happily show that it works and that I have achieved that tech without showing him how I achieved that.
I think it's fair because realistically, that's honestly what Shane has done, right? Guys, and just to be clear, I'm not saying that Shane doesn't have the tech, but that's what we have up on screen right now. For Shane to challenge Callum to this, it's to say that Shane has it. JMT Reagan says they do have the tech. Everybody's saying, but he has the tech, but he has the tech. But guys, again, we just have to be able to understand it from Callum's perspective, Big Fry's perspective, Kira's perspective, Sid Alpha, if we're going to have that meaningful dialogue. And their perspective is that Shane has a video. Shane has videos that he has shown you guys that is not the same as a technical demo, for example. And all I'm saying, guys, is that I respect that perspective. I understand where their perspective comes from as people who find other projects who do exactly that all the time, and they think Earth 2 is another one of them. Do I agree with that? No, I think Shane's probably got what he says because I know he had Nathaniel. We know he had Wolfgang. We know he's got Farron right now, an amazing artist, right? So I do agree that I believe Shane has the tech, but I wouldn't say, how dare you? Of course Shane has the tech, this, and this. I would say, I believe it. They don't. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's disproven until proven, right?
Schrodinger's Earth, guys. It's
Schrodinger's map clicking.
Schrodinger's metaverse now. That's what it is. That's where we're at, guys. Proven. Yes, Mr. G84.
Wow, so premium brand.
So is there anything in particular on this list that you think is the missing puzzle piece? Is there anything here that you look at and you go, well, he wants me to give him the missing puzzle piece, and here's what I think that missing puzzle piece is?
Honestly, if there's one thing I could point to, it's the clip mapping with zero artifacting. Now, I just want to point out, somebody commented just about this. Where was it? I think it was Issa. Maybe it wasn't.
Do you know what the comment was? I can probably find it pretty fast.
Okay, here you go. Callum is doing it out of the box. What makes you think that they can't just do that if they didn't have their proprietary tech? And that's a good question. So clip mapping itself is the changing of resolution of tiles around you, right? What they're claiming they have is the ability to do it seamlessly between two different resolution tiles without artifacting. So I believe they have clip mapping. That's standard in any engine. I don't believe they have this extra thing mastered. So that bit isn't doable out of the box, which is what I referred to in my video. I said clip mapping is out of the box. What they're claiming to have as a proprietary tech in clip mapping, I don't believe they have.
Gotcha. Okay. I understand where you're coming from, and I understand your point, and that's always what I want to do here, guys. This is why I like that we can have Callum on the stream. I like that we can have Sid Alpha on the stream. I'd love to have Big Fry on or talk on Big Fry's stream, and I Kira as well. Kira doesn't like to have guests or do guest appearances, from what I understand. No. But either way, guys, I think it's so important for us to have this dialogue, and having this dialogue is how we bring these communities together and get both of them to be able to respectfully disagree. I don't mind critics of Earth 2. I don't mind the speculation. I don't mind the criticism, just like I'm sure Callum doesn't mind being criticized or corrected or getting feedback or any of that. We got to be able to do it in a way that's premium brand. Guys, that's going to wrap it up here. I don't see any new questions in the chat for Callum. I do want to ask everybody to put some hype books in the chat for Callum, and coming on here, stepping into the lion's den, guys, and being in the hot seat, answering questions, talking through how he feels about his challenge so far. Callum, thank you so much for your time, and I hope to catch you soon.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me on. It's been you've got a lovely community, I have to say that.
Hey,
you've got the good eggs.
We've said this from the very beginning. This right here, this is the best community on Earth 2.
I can't disagree with that.
Well, you have a good night, man. Thank you again so much for being here.
And you, dude. No problem. Have a good one.
You too.